All right, so I'm here today with Mr. Gabe Lee. Mr. Lee, first off, how are you doing? Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks, man.
We are so excited to have you. So you have, I guess, recently released the Hometown Kid album, right?
Oh
Could
yeah.
you kind of walk us through the process of getting to this point in your career?
Yeah, strictly like music industry and Nashville wise, I mean it's been about 5 years now. I've been working with a small music label called Torres Music Group. Basically a guy who was he was a drummer for a long time for like Tracy Lawrence, Leon Russell. Uh, Started going into A&R and publishing, working for Sony, working for Columbia. A few years back, he started his own shop and he develops artists. He looks for talent and singers and songwriters in Nashville and tries to and in Nashville and Texas too. He's got roots in Texas, so he just tries to find folks that he can develop and create good music with. And I was one of his finds in 2019, uh, and I was just playing a tiny little open mic downtown in Nashville. I think I was playing maybe just like two or three songs. It's kind of how it goes in Nashville. My friends and I used to just go out to every single writers round we possibly could, even if we weren't playing, just to kiss ass and shake hands and at least network a little bit. But we showed up to this one, and it was a busy night, so everyone only gets to play two songs. So I went up and I did my two, and this guy who was upstairs eating with his family, he come down and he shook my hand, gave me his business card, and it ended up being Alex Torres, and he ended up coming to my next show and the one after that, and enjoyed it so much that he wanted to invest and he wanted to help me cut records. So we've cut three records since meeting. Farmland in 2019, Honky Tonk Hell in 2020, and then boop, my dog's scratching. Honky Tonk Hell in 2020, and then Hometown Kid this past year. And every record is a little bit different, but you kind of get in a groove with it, because it's a craft, it's an art, and it takes time and it takes care. So I just try to learn every single day we're in the studio, every single show that we play in between. You're just trying to learn and pick up the best traits you can and the best habits you can to succeed, because very rarely does it happen overnight.
That's really good advice for young artists.
Yeah.
So how did you get into country music? Like, how did you decide that's what you wanted to do with your
Hmm.
career?
I think a lot of it was just location. I mean, I grew up in Nashville and I was born and raised here, and a lot of the lifeblood and the history and the heritage of this town is country music, and that's what makes this place a destination. It's what makes it special, and it's what makes it one of the best music towns in the entire world. I mean, you have, like, no joke, the best guitar players and drummers and pianists and producers, engineers and songwriters. So it's just a hub for country music. And having grown up here, I was just surrounded by it. I think I grew up listening to a handful of country artists. Not, but I wasn't like a diehard '90s country kid. Although a lot of my friends were. I was listening to more like folky stuff. I was listening to like Jim Croce, Bob Dylan, John Prine, more of the storytellers. But of course, '90s country was like peak country. It was between the '70s, '80s, '90s. Country music created some of the most beautiful music and the best storytelling ever, in my opinion. So when I moved back from college, I've been playing a couple bands, always had been, and I was doing kind of a more Americana folky thing, and since Torres is a country music aficionado and he's always been involved in the genre, that's kind of the path that we took. And it's so interesting and fun and always developing, because uh, country has a country has a changing definition. It's got multiple I guess multiple definitions now, multiple personalities. You got pop country, you got outlaw country, you got red dirt country, you have western swing, you have Appalachian folk, which they call themselves country. You have the bluegrass folks who I mean, that's about as country as it gets. Bluegrass, that's kind of where it all started.
Right.
So, all these different definitions of country, of course, we fall into Americana, we fall into Heartland rock, and that's all good, fine by me. As long as people are spinning the music, they can call it whatever they want.
Yeah, I actually found you. I was listening through my Americana playlist, and you were right after Bad Leroy Brown, and I'm like,
Right.
this guy fits right in. I'm like, I gotta find him, and so I go
Nice.
through, and your album had just come out, the Hometown Kid, and absolutely loved it. So I was like, I got to get him on the
Yeah.
show, and here we are. So yeah,
Yeah, those playlists are like those playlists really provide a lot for artists just starting out because they're a quick way to get discovered, and most people are obviously listening on Tidal, Amazon, not to mention Spotify and Apple, that make amazing playlists. Apple just put out a new playlist this morning called New and Americana, and I know that there's the Indigo playlist on Spotify. There's the Pulse of Americana on Spotify. Like all these playlists that people probably just throw on and just let run. But when there's 500,000 people doing that every day, and your song is on one of those lists, or God willing, you have a couple songs or a couple co-writes on those lists, that's where the streams really build up, and then you can get more discovery that way.
yeah. So I guess when speaking of co-writes, I want to ask, you write all of your own music, or do
That's
you?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple co-writes on my personal records from some of my close buddies that I've written with. But I'm not a super active co-writer in Nashville, and most people in this town are. Most songwriters, I think they try to get out and write at least once a week. And then people who have publishing deals are generally out there every freaking day in different writing rooms. And I'm just kind of like a hermit when it comes to that. I kind of stick to my own stuff. I like to let it cook on my own, and um, there's lots of different ways to do it.
So what is your writing process like then? Do you write the chords first, and then the melody, and then the
Mm-hmm.
lyrics, or how does that work?
Yeah. So songwriting for me is a process that just takes patience and time, and sometimes it'll happen on a lunch break, and then sometimes it'll take years. And I've had both. I've had the pleasure of experiencing both, and both routes bring me the same joy. Right? Ultimately, it's like you get to complete, or you get close to completing a song. You make progress on it. I don't know if I don't know if you ever finish a song, because when I play songs out, and I play them in different settings, whether it's a bigger club, or it's a small theater, or if it's just a honky tonk dive, songs take on different life and energy depending on where they are. Uh, when I'm creating songs or crafting songs, I kind of it usually starts with a little hook. It starts with a tiny melody or a phrase. And like one of my songs, Eveline, it started with just the very first phrase, Wheels of Fortune, away we ride, to Arizona in better times. And it just kind of fell out from there. And it could be a melody, it could be a guitar riff, or it could be a phrase. There's a lot of different ways it'll come to songwriters, and I've experienced all of those different things.
And what would you say your favorite song that you've ever written is? Do you have a favorite?
I think Eveline is connected with people the most. I think it's poetic, but also accessible and understandable. I think there's a special language that I succeeded in creating with that song, because it paints a picture, but it's also not like extremely convoluted or hard to understand.
Yeah.
I think Honky Tonk Hell is one of the songs that I have the most fun just playing out live. It's high energy, whereas Eveline is a soft, slow song. And Honky Tonk Hell kind of shows off some of the more, I guess, like brash, outlaw kind of renegade motifs in country writing. And it also lets me talk about a little bit about what it's like being in the music business in Nashville.
Those are both really great songs. So I guess one of the things I've always kind of wondered about your music is, do you like when you're sitting down and you're writing, do you kind of know what the style is going to be before you go in? Because you're very multifaceted in your art.
Yeah.
Do you know like it's going to be a honky tonk hell style or more of an Eveline? Do you know that
Yeah.
going?
I would say it really just depends. Sometimes you know what you're gonna get out of a song, like you know what kind of song it's gonna be, and then you chase that because you want it to fit in that mold. If you want it to be a two-stepping Western swing song, it's got to be a certain, chunk, chunk, chunk. It's got to be played a certain way and sung a certain way. Um, and but I don't think I necessarily stick to those molds as strongly as other people do, because I do enjoy having diversity in my songs. As far as like a concept for like an album, like putting together songs that all sound alike, uh, it's it's not. I haven't done too much of that. I think the last record and the record before jump around quite a bit, which is just something that me and my producers enjoy doing. My next record we're working on in studio right now, and I am trying to dial in. I'm trying to focus in on a vibe and stick to that vibe through the whole record. And it'll definitely be more rootsy, folk. Lots of fiddle, banjo, mandolin, acoustic guitar. I'm trying to become a better guitar player. I'm not going to be a bluegrass picker anytime soon, but I'm trying to settle into those roots of like folk music and bluegrass music a little more on this next project.
That I'm excited to. I didn't realize you were working on stuff. I'm excited to hear it.
Always, man.
Always. So I guess I only have a couple of questions left. Most of them you've already kind of covered. What would you recommend to a new artist, like a young guy who's just trying to kind of make it, maybe get that first record deal?
Yeah, yeah. What my buddies and I were doing, right? We were playing every single open mic possible, and I mean they do it. There's different systems now to how people sign up for these things, but basically, I mean, if you think you got something, or if you just want to play out, like if you're not even really looking for business, or fame, or a record deal, like if you just want to play out and you think you have something good, um, there's so many different songwriter nights and open mics probably near you. Like it doesn't have to be Nashville. Now, if you want some of the best competition, and if you want that competition to motivate you and make you better, then you got to come to Nashville. Um, but there's lots of great music communities all across the United States. I've had the pleasure of touring through uh, great music communities in the Carolinas as well as in Texas, and all of these places love songwriters. So if you can find a decent music community, that most of these communities are very open and accepting, because most people who are in music are like super chill. They're probably like people that you would meet at a brewery. They're just like the nicest folks that are not gonna like are not you're not gonna feel embarrassed or nervous about playing in front of, right? Music folks are generally pretty chill. Go out and find an open mic and see where you stand amongst the other songwriters there, and see what you can do to get better. Um, Nashville is there's so many dang people in this town doing that exact thing. So I think the first most important thing is probably, like, if you've just moved to town last week and you're looking for places to play, like, one of the hardest things, but one of the most important things, is to find that community. Is to find your buddies. Is to find people that you can trust, that you can hang out with, and not necessarily do music. Or even if you are just hunting down, shows every single day with these people, at least let them be tolerable folks that you trust, that understand you. Uh, and at the very least, even if the music thing doesn't work out, you'll have friends, right? You've made buddies. Um, and I and I'm lucky enough to be from this town, so that I have communities, that different communities that I've in my past, that I connected with and still keep up with, like people from when I was a kid growing up in church, people from bands that I played in growing up, people at Belmont when I went to college there for a stint, people that I bartended with for years and years. All these different pockets and communities are non-music related, but they're a support system. And when you move to a new town, that's one of the biggest things you don't have is a support system. So if we're talking about someone moving to Nashville chasing a dream, find your people, find your community.
That is really good advice, not something I would have thought of if I was an artist. So you mentioned being able to travel into some of these really cool towns that are musically aligned. What was your favorite venue or town you've ever played?
Yeah, man, there's a couple. One of the first festivals I ever played was in Greensboro, North Carolina, a tiny little town. And we met these folks who owned a brewery. And so we knew they were going to be, good folks. We knew they were going to be fun, that they like to party. But also because it was such a small town, this crew of folks, they were all college buddies. I almost said college bros, which they are, but they're like established college bros. They have kids now, and they all have this. They're all music like nerds, so they love songwriters, and they found our music, my first record from some from the radio or some playlist, invited us out, and they own a brewery called like all the guys together own a brewery called Little Brother Brewing, right on the town square. And it's just a great small Carolina like drinking spot. But they host live music, and they invite us out to a street festival that they were doing, which turned out to be awesome. They had a lot of great local acts coming in there. They had River Wireless there. They had Danger Muffin, which are all pretty well known in that area. So I would say, the Carolinas have been a really great place for us. And most importantly, we can always stop in the Carolinas, like on the way up the coast or something, because they're so friendly. Like we've always got a couch to crash on out there. I can always, catch a show somewhere or play a show somewhere, at a brewery and make a couple bucks. I also really love Sagebrush in Austin, Texas, which is it's a smaller dance hall, more of a dive honky tonk than anything, but it's got great history. It used to be owned by Cartel. There's still bullet holes in the wall. There's a guy that runs it named Dennis, who's like super cool guy, and they got food trucks out back, and really good sound. And it's just a dusty old honky tonk, and you wouldn't really, it doesn't look like much from outside, but you walk in and we had, I played like a 2.5 hour show there this past year, and people were, and our kickoff time was like 11 p.m. So it was kind of like it's kind of like the jerk off slot, but I mean, people were there, like people stayed and were digging the music, and it's Texas. So they were two-stepping, they were swing dancing. And I felt really encouraged, right? Because you roll into a town you're not from, you're going to play a midnight slot basically. And people were really receptive. So Sagebrush in Austin, Texas is also up there in my top venues.
That is really awesome. I would love to make it out there one day, see all the bullet holes.
It's killer. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Alabama. I'm about 2 hours south of Nashville in Huntsville.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. I like Huntsville.
It's a cool town. Not as cool as Nashville, but it's a cool little town.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I guess really the last question I have, is there anything that you've got out now or that's coming out that you want to plug, anything you want to promote?
Yeah. So if I can ask, when is this episode sort of going to be published?
So looking to publish it first week of next month.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yep.
We've got a video release that we're working on releasing, and by the time this comes out, it'll probably be out. I've got a song on my last record called Buffalo Road, Very personal song. It's a piano ballad, and it's about this like field that my buddies and I in high school used to not sneak off to, but just go out to when we uh, just wanted to, you know, smoke a doobie and drink some beer and like, you know, look for aliens. And it was and it's one of those places, like everyone's got that place, like with your high school buddies or your college buddies. It's like the spot, right? The spot you would go out to just to disappear for like a couple hours. um and we shot a great video here in this apartment, in my tiny little basement apartment. And I think it turned out great. So if you haven't seen it yet, by the time you hear this episode, the Buffalo Road music video is going to be our first ever official um, music video. That's not like a live session or anything. So yeah, check it out.
I'll make sure to link that in the description if it's out by the time this comes
Mhm.
out. And then where can people find you? Like social media, Spotify,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm mostly everywhere as Mr. Gabe Lee, Mr. spelled out Mister. And I'm I feel like I'm a little old for TikTok, but I did get one, and I'm the hometown kid. And it's funny because like my folks, one of the managers at the label was like, she's younger, and she was like pushing me to get a TikTok, and for music, obviously, because you know you can get fans in like 2 seconds with that. But of course, all I've done is use it to post videos of like my dog eating a cheeseburger, or like driving around like road raging, you know. So like I've barely even done any music stuff on it, but I do intend to. um and and yeah, oh yeah, I'm also on Venmo as Mr. Gabe Lee. If anyone just wants to send me cash, that'd be awesome.
That's a good thing to plug. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoy getting to talk to you and just all your insight into the music industry. It's been enlightening.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out, bud. It was fun.